Hey guys, this is Jochen. Welcome to my channel. Before I forget it again, please subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss a single video on this thing. Well, as you know, there is a lot of new Fujifilm gear coming very soon. But I want to talk today about an old and used camera that I bought last October. A camera that I've owned before and which I thought I don't need anymore. Well, you can be wrong. Well, as you probably know from the title of the video, my new camera is the Fujifilm X70. When it appeared in early 2016, it fell into the category luxury compact cameras, same as the X100 series. You have to speak in past tense because this piece of gear was apparently not a big seller after it was released and the production was already stopped in 2017. Still, I think it's worth a look at the used market, and I'll explain why. So what specifications does this camera have to offer? It has a fixed 18.5mm wide-angle lens, which is approximately 28mm in full frame. The lens has a maximum aperture of 2.8 and a Fuji typical dedicated aperture ring with little handles left and right. The X70 has a leaf shutter. It makes shutter speeds of 1/4000th mechanical and 1/32,000th of a second electronic possible. Leaf shutters are a special feature that are rarely used in cameras. One advantage, for example, is that they are almost silent. For this camera size, the X70 has a sensationally large sensor. The APS-C X-Trans CMOS 2 sensor with 16.3 megapixels, which was also used in other popular camera models from Fuji. The touchscreen of the X70, which was totally unusual for 2016 by the way, can not only be tilted, it can even be folded completely to the front, whereby the camera automatically switches to selfie mode and activates face recognition. The X70 offers an ISO range of 200 to 6400, which can be expanded to 100 to 51200. The video specs of the X70 read quite well, even if 4K was of course not yet an option. But at least there is full HD video with up to 60 frames per second. The camera can record up to 8 shots per second full resolution images in series mode. Not very impressive compared to today's rates. It can of course save in RAW format, also in parallel to JPEG. There is a built-in mini flash, which I've never used before. It also has a 2.5mm microphone and remote jack. And it has a micro HDMI output on which only playback works. The camera uses the old NP95 batteries, which can be charged here in the camera via USB 2 connection or externally. The X70 offers the Fujifilm simulations and some other filter stuff, such as pinhole camera and miniature effect, possibilities for bracketing, face recognition, basically everything you could wish for. The operation is Fuji usual. Focus mode at the front, aperture on the lens, shutter speed on the control dial, and here exposure compensation is also available. There is also the famous auto switch, which you can put the X70 to fully automatic mode if you just want to take snapshots or have to ask someone else to take pictures. So everything as you are used to from compact camera bodies from Fuji. When thinking about a compact camera, I also had the XF10 on my mind, but what I liked most about this model was the Flippy screen and the manual operation with the dials on the body. I also thought about buying an X100F, but it was far too expensive for me. Nevertheless, I looked around for a used X70 and I wanted the all-black version. I finally found one used with some traces of heavy using, but it cost less than 300 euros. The X70 is sometimes available with a limited warranty on eBay or Rebuy, but then you are quickly beyond the 400 euros limit. I now want to tell you about my experiences with the camera and show the advantages and disadvantages. Let's start with the disadvantages, because if there is a killer argument against it, you can at least turn off this nonsense and have a look for another camera. A disadvantage for me personally is the lack of the acros film simulation. You know, I like to do street photography and I always do it with acros when shooting black and white. But the processor of this tiny thing unfortunately is not good enough, so I just live without it. The monochrome simulation is of course also nice, and with the right settings, I use the ones from Kevin Mullins, who is a huge fan of this camera by the way, you can get really nice pictures. What made me think about buying the X100 instead was the missing viewfinder on the X70. There is an optical clip-on viewfinder for the camera to buy, but for an unacceptable price. And I am, with all retro love, a fan of EVF. But of course an EVF takes up space in the body, and the size of the X70 is simply unbeatable. So I have to make the display as bright as possible. What really is annoying with the X70 is the slow and especially with videos imprecise autofocus. There is a lot of pumping going on, and even with this it's not very accurate. The continuous AF is something I no longer use for photos. Instead I shoot almost everything in M mode and with the back button focus and/or zone focusing. I made a video about zone focusing, so just have a look. The camera would actually be the ideal vlogging camera. Folding display, micro input, film simulations also for video, etc. But with this kind of autofocus and face recognition, the video specs are so imprecise that you can hardly use the combination. Too bad, too bad. But I will still use the X70 for vlogging and focus manually. A real filmmaker does it like this anyway. Well, there are some software-related disadvantages from today's perspective, which are simply due to the age and probably the processor of the camera. For example, the menu of the camera is very old school and not structured as I am used to from my other Fujis. There is the Q menu with up to 7 entries, but unfortunately you cannot rename them. They are called C1, C2, etc. Well, luxury problems after all, so we can now have a look at the positive aspects of the camera. In some situations, for example on my daily trips to work, I have to carry a laptop, headphones, etc. Together with an interchangeable lens camera, both the X-T3 and the X-T30 are still too big and too heavy for me. And in street photography it's a huge advantage when seeing a nice situation to quickly reach into your jacket pocket and simply take a shot. I have the camera set on M and sometimes refocus using the back button focus if necessary. Of course, the tiny size of the X70 is an advantage in street photography. This applies to all popular street cameras of this size, for example all the Ricoh GR models. You are not perceived as a threat with such a tiny camera, so that you can get close to situations without attracting much attention. If you then flip the touch display and also use it to shoot, you are almost invisible. Where all reviews with all the disadvantages of the model have agreed so far is the excellent image quality. The sensor was and still is simply excellent and delivers extremely great image quality even in low light situations. This is a clear advantage of this tiny camera compared to other compact devices of this size. In spite of this mini body, you can hardly accept any drawbacks. I would not hesitate to go up to ISO 6400 here with the ISO like with the XE3. But my auto ISO goes from 200 to 3200 without image noise having been an issue for me so far. Simply great. At the end of the video I like to show you a few pictures with the camera as always. Well, let's get to the display. To be honest, I don't always understand the purists who, when asked about features for cameras in surveys, argue against folding displays. Nobody is forcing you to. The discussion is intensified again precisely because of the successor to the X100F. I really liked my XE3, but I sold it because it did not have a flip-up display. I take pictures from the ground and don't want to throw myself in the dust. It doesn't have to be. I don't have the problem with this X70, and the fact that you can get even a selfie or vlogging mode here is completely great. One thing is massively different from many other compact cameras. A beautiful metal housing with solid controls is rarely found in a camera of this size. It also seems pretty robust, even if Kevin Mullins apparently managed to scrap this. So let's come to the conclusion about this tiny camera. Who could it be for? I can recommend this camera to anyone who wants an always-on camera with excellent image quality. I see people who just want to photograph their kids anytime, anywhere. I see people who need a compact travel camera with which the film simulations from Fuji no longer have to be reworked. I think the X70 is also an excellent choice for spontaneous street photographers who always want to be ready to take a decent snapshot. If I explicitly go out to photograph street, I will probably still take my X-T30 with me. But the X70 is my always with me camera. So that's supposed to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give me a like and don't forget to leave me a subscription. So for now, take care, have a nice day, ciao.